What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. And this one is some of my early thoughts ahead of the Game Week 15 deadline. So I'm going to go through some key players that are worth talking about based on what's happened in Game Week 14 so far, and then go through a few notes at the end. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and make sure to join the Let's Talk FPL Premier League Pick'em League over on Sleeper. It's completely free with another prize on offer this week. You can use the link in the description below or scan the QR code on screen. More on that to come later. So let's start with Jurrien Timber. Scored a goal last night against Man United. Starting to look like somewhat of a bargain at 5.6 million. And I know I've been banging this drum for weeks now, but if you haven't already got one or two Arsenal defenders, I cannot see any reason for that not to be one of your, I don't want to say highest priorities, but if you need to make a defender swap, I can't see why you wouldn't go for Arsenal defenders. Possibly you could look at Liverpool instead, because long-term their fixtures are probably a little bit better for clean sheets. And I'm going to talk about Trent in a minute. But for the next four, Fulham away, Everton at home, Palace away, Ipswich at home, that looks pretty good for clean sheets for Arsenal. And I know that a lot of people are going to look at the Fulham game saying that's going to be difficult, and it will be. Fulham have played very well this season. We'll see how they get on against Brighton tonight. But Arsenal are the best defence in the league. If anyone can go and get a clean sheet against them, it's that game. And then the two home games in the next three after that, Everton and Ipswich, just look great. And on top of that, you've got attacking potential as well. The goal that Timber scored last night was pretty much from the Gabriel position at the near post. He flicked it on, went in the net. And obviously when Gabriel comes back into the side, that will be his role again. But Timber's in and around the box, and he only costs 5.6. You can't buy Gabriel right now if you don't own him, because he's flagged and still a doubt going into the Fulham game. And Saliba's 6 million. I don't think he's gone up in price. Let me just double check that. I bought him at 6. Yeah, he's still 6 million. I think it's just worth saving that 0.4 and going for Timber. 5.6 for an Arsenal defender just feels way too cheap, basically. As I've said before about Timber, can you guarantee he's going to play every single game? No, but I do think with the injuries, as long as he can stay fit and available, he will be in that 11 way more often than not. And I would not be surprised if he plays all of these matches as long as he can stay fit, which is obviously a little bit of a question mark. But even if you look at his minutes recently, they've been pretty decent. I don't think there's been too many early subs. Yeah, 90 against United, 90 against West Ham, 87 against Forest, 90 against Chelsea. The minutes are good, the starts are good. The attacking numbers aren't necessarily anything special, but I think when you watch the game, you see him getting into good positions, and he's a threat from set pieces as well, as we saw last night. So, yeah, I don't know what more I can say. I think some people might want to look at maybe Saka and Odegaard and only go for one Arsenal defender. And I think with Salah, Palmer and Saka being so popular in midfield, and then maybe a cheap one like Rodgers, I don't know, Odegaard is that last midfielder instead of like a Fernandes or Mbeumo probably sounds quite nice right now. But I still think the upgrade from any defender pretty much to an Arsenal one is much bigger than it is from most midfielders to Odegaard. So for example, right, if you had, I don't know, like a 4.5 million defender, and I appreciate it's more money, right? But the upgrade to Timber is huge. Whereas if you go from like Bowen to Odegaard and Mitoma to Odegaard, the upgrade's not so big. So for me, if you're looking to triple up on Arsenal, which I feel like you should be doing, double defence and Saka is the way to go. It's similar with Havertz, right? He's a good option in his own right, but Isak's good, Jackson's good, Solanke may be good if he can get himself fit. There's lots of cheap forwards to go for. You just don't need Havertz. So for me, it's pretty clear right now that double Arsenal defence looks pretty decent. And that's not a knee-jerk, right? Because they've got 2 clean sheets in the last 3. I've been saying this for a while, but I think now they've got clean sheets and got attacking returns, people will be more willing to jump onto them. I will say that from game week 19 onwards, the fixtures were a little bit more tricky for clean sheets. Brentford away, Brighton away, Spurs at home, Villa at home. But again, if any team is going to keep a clean sheet or two over that run, it is Arsenal. They are that good. Then you got Wolves away in 23, City at home in 24, more difficult. Then Leicester away, West Ham at home, Forest away. Honestly, look, you can never guarantee anything in FPL because things change very quickly, right? But if you put your Arsenal defenders in and they keep playing, I can't really see too many game weeks in the near future where you look to get rid of them, outside of maybe switching to double Liverpool defence instead, because later on their fixtures are better. So, yeah, Timber's great. If you need a defender and you've got 5.6 million, he's the one to buy. So with Game Week 15 starting in just 2 days, don't forget to join the Let's Talk FPL Premier League Pick'em League over on Sleeper. It's completely free to join, and there's going to be another £100 Amazon gift voucher up for grabs just in Game Week 15 alone. You can download the app using the link in the description below or scanning the QR code on screen. We can see what's currently happening in Game Week 14. So far, I've only got 5 picks correct. I put Ipswich to beat Crystal Palace, which didn't happen. I had Liverpool to beat Newcastle, which also didn't happen. And I had Man United and Arsenal as a draw. But of course, Arsenal won 2-0. So not going great for me, only 5 predictions. But you can see that someone has 8. They are currently the top predictor with lots of people behind on 7. And by the way, if you want to set up your own leagues with your friends, you can do that. Sleeper app is completely free to use. So far, it's pretty close for the £100 Amazon gift voucher. Let's see what happens with the rest of Game Week 14. But for now, I'm going to submit my picks for Game Week 15. So this is super quick and easy to do. So I'm going to go for a Liverpool away win against Everton. I don't think winning the Merseyside derby is ever easy, but Liverpool are looking so good right now. I've got to go with them. I think it'll be a pretty easy win for Aston Villa as well. Brentford versus Newcastle. Brentford only scored once against Villa, but they do have goals in them. Newcastle defence not exactly watertight. I'm going to go for a draw, although I think Newcastle might nick it. Palace versus Man City. I think Man City will go on a bit of a run now, so I'm going to go for them. Man United, I'm going to back them against Forest, and Arsenal to beat Fulham. Leicester versus Brighton. I haven't seen the Brighton-Fulham game at the time of recording this. Maybe Brighton will lose. I'm going to have to go for them, I think, to beat Leicester. Leicester should have conceded more goals to West Ham. I'm going to back Ipswich again, even though Bournemouth attack. Actually, no, do you know what? I'm going to swap that. I'm going to go for a Bournemouth win. Spurs to beat Chelsea, although, again, that game could be... I think it could be quite tight in terms of it being a draw, but I think there will be goals in it. So I think it could be, instead of like a tight 1-1, I think it'd be like 3-3 or something like that. And then I'm going to go for West Ham to get a win against Wolves. That's how quick and easy it is to do. Whoever gets the most predictions for Game Week 15 only will get a £100 Amazon gift voucher. If more than 1 people are on the same amount of predictions, then I will do a draw on the next deadline stream to determine the winner. You can download the app using the link in the description below or scanning the QR code on screen. Really easy to join. Make sure you do it before Saturday's games. So I mentioned the Liverpool defence earlier, so let's talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold next. And I'm really glad that he got 2 assists off the bench last night. I would have preferred to have him in my team, but I think I mentioned last week that I was interested in him. And if I'd sat here this morning and said once again that Trent's attacking numbers this season have actually been pretty good despite the lack of assists, I think people would have thought I was crazy. But now he's got the 2 assists, I think people will be a lot more interested in him. And generally, Liverpool defence this season has looked pretty good. I know they conceded 3 last night, but I would say they're top 2 with Arsenal. And Trent's attacking numbers have been decent. 0.34 expected assists per 90. He's put up similar numbers to that before this Newcastle game as well. It just so happened that in the first few weeks he only had 1 assist. We can expect more, I think, moving forward. And he's going to take set pieces and stuff like that as well. And I just think, as long as you're confident enough in Trent's minutes, and we'll talk about that in a minute, he is probably just worth the money over Van Dijk. Like I said this before, in previous seasons, if you'd said there was only a 0.5 million difference between Van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold, you'd laugh if anyone went Van Dijk, right? Because 0.5 is nothing for what Trent can do. Now, I don't think that Van Dijk is a bad pick, because in him you get absolute safety of starts. And obviously we saw Trent get benched last night. But for what Trent is capable of, I think he is probably worth the risk. Now, is he going to start every single game over the next 5 to 6 game weeks? There has to be some doubt there, of course, because he literally got benched last night. But he was only just back from a hamstring problem against Man City a few days before. So it's not completely crazy that he was benched against Newcastle. That means he's very likely to start against Everton. There is a Champions League match between that and Fulham. Liverpool obviously doing very well in the Champions League. Arne Slot might choose to rest Trent just to make sure that he's fine moving forward. If he does do that, that means he's almost certainly going to start Fulham. And then I think after Fulham and before Spurs in Game Week 17, there's a Carabao Cup match. So again, you think it would be quite likely that Trent would get benched for that. I think looking at the fixture run for Liverpool, the next time he might actually get a rest in the league might actually be one of the best games they've got coming up, which is Leicester at home in game week 18, because they play on Sunday the 22nd of December against Spurs away. He'll almost certainly start that game if he's fit. And then 4 days later they play Leicester, and then 3 days after that they play West Ham away. So it is a bit of a risk going for Trent because he's only just back off a hamstring problem. There is no guarantee he definitely gets rested in that Champions League match, and he might get a bit of a rest against Leicester, but he has played multiple games in a row plenty of times in the past. So if he can prove his fitness over the next few games, not have any more issues with that hamstring, then hopefully he will play all the matches. But I can't sit here and tell you he's risk-free because he's not. But at 0.5 million more than Van Dijk, he is extremely tempting for those attacking returns. If you just want to get a Liverpool defender in and just forget about them for a very long time because of the fixture run, and you don't want to worry about injuries and rotation, then you get Van Dijk, right? That is pretty clear. But there's a lot more upside, I would say, with Trent. Also, by the way, long term, like after that West Ham away game in 19, it's then Man United at home, Forest away, Brentford away, Ipswich at home, Bournemouth away, Wolves at home. If he can stay fit, Trent, or if you get Van Dijk, I think you're buying a Liverpool defender in game week 15, and you're probably keeping them until game week 25. Again, things can change quickly in FPL. We might get a blank game week because of a postponement from nowhere and then a double game week or something like that. But without that kind of stuff happening, I think they're just good long-term picks. In terms of the other players, Gomez and Kwanzaa started last night, but Gomez came off in the 66th minute and Kwanzaa played the whole game. I still think moving forward, Gomez will play more minutes. And I think at 4.8 million, you can definitely say that's worth a risk. But if you're looking for a long-term pick, you pay the money and you go for Van Dijk or Trent. Even with Robertson at 5.9, he's going to get good minutes at the moment because Tsimikas is out. But once Tsimikas is back, that's a little bit more of a problem. So I would just find the money if you can and go for Van Dijk at a minimum or Trent. But I think he's great. By the way, I don't think he's essential all of a sudden. Like, if you don't have a good route to him or you've got to take hits, I wouldn't do it. Because let's be real, right? Everton away is a derby. It might not be that easy. And Spurs away in 17 is not a guarantee of a clean sheet either. So really, game week 18 onwards is where Liverpool's fixture run is great. But I think if you've got the move to buy one now, I think it looks pretty decent. So Kevin De Bruyne finally started for Man City last night, picked up a goal and an assist. And I didn't watch the game, but looking at the highlights, he was pretty good in that match. And I think a lot of people are suddenly interested in him. And it's maybe not the worst time to be thinking about Man City players because the fixture run is pretty good. I spoke about last week that from game week 14 onwards, Nottingham Forest at home, that is a bit of a fixture swing for City. And now they've got Palace away in 15, Man United at home in 16, then followed by Villa away, Everton at home, Leicester away, and West Ham at home. So there's not too much to worry about over the next 6 game weeks, especially from an attacking point of view. And basically, the numbers De Bruyne put up last night are kind of what you've come to expect from him. 0.42 expected goals, 0.25 expected assists. And we know if he gets the minutes, he's a quality player and the returns will come. So should you be considering him at 9.4 million for your FPL squad? He's not one for me. Let me just say that. He's a huge differential, and if you are confident in his minutes, I really don't mind using the midfield spot for him. But the idea of him taking up a spot instead of like a Palmer, Salah or Saka, absolutely not. He's not on penalties. He's only just back playing. We don't know what the minutes will be like. I would not be surprised if he gets a rest during December, even though he's only just back. He's not on penalties. For me, it just feels a little bit expensive. And I know that some people are going to say, you talk about penalties too much. There's not that many anyway. We know we can get returns from open play. That is true. But when you're spending only a little bit more to get a player with penalties that has almost as good stats, but probably better minutes as well, I find it very difficult to justify De Bruyne. And also, the fact that he's been back training for so long, but has only just started, that also makes me worry about his fitness moving forward. Now, he may well be rested in the Champions League. He'll almost certainly start against Man United if he's fit. Then you've got 6 days till the Villa game. You've got another 5 days till Everton, and then 3 to Leicester. Could he start 3 or 4 of the next 4 game weeks, possibly. That Leicester game looks a big worry, right? Or the Everton game. I'm just not sure he starts both of those. And 9.4 million is quite expensive. Like, even to the point, and they've not played yet, right? So it's risky saying this because he might have another terrible game. But Son is only 0.5 million more. And he's been back a little while now from the injury that he had. His minutes have been pretty good. We know he's on penalties ahead of Solanke. For 0.5 million more, that just feels a little bit better. The fixtures aren't as good for Spurs, it has to be said. Like, they got Chelsea at home in 15, Liverpool at home in 17, even Arsenal away in 21. But you know if he's fit, Son's going to play all these games. I don't know if you can guarantee that with De Bruyne. And then you add the penalties on top. And historically, right, De Bruyne's goal threat has not been massive. It's more the creativity is where the returns come from. And De Bruyne is usually quite good in that when he gets a return, like an assist, he often gets bonus points as well. I get it. I completely get why people are thinking about him. And some people might be set up in a squad like mine, right, where I don't have Saka, right, and I could continue going without him and just keep Fernandes. I can literally do in Burmo straight to De Bruyne. But when I've got 10 million in the bank, I just can't see why I wouldn't go for Son instead. I mean, De Bruyne is brilliant. This is one of those situations where I feel like I've got to confirm that I think De Bruyne is brilliant as a player. I'm just not sure it's the right time to bring him in for FPL. So have we found out who Aston Villa's next penalty taker is? Possibly, because they got one last night. Ollie Watkins took it and scored it. McGinn, Tielemans and Rodgers were all on the pitch, and obviously Tielemans missed the last one that Aston Villa got. So potentially moving forward, Ollie Watkins is now the next penalty taker. The only possible kind of sticking point where that's not a guarantee is that he won the penalty, and also I don't think he scored a huge amount of goals recently, right? So let me have a quick look when I bring him up here. Yeah, he scored one against Palace, to be fair, which was only 2 game weeks ago. But before that, the last one was against Fulham. So before the penalty last night, he had 1 goal in 5 games. So potentially he won it. He hasn't scored a huge amount of goals recently. Maybe that's why he took it. But it could also be that he is just first choice penalty taker moving forward now. And I actually thought the penalty was okay. I saw some people saying that it wasn't great. And we know that Watkins' penalty record is not amazing. But I actually thought the penalty was all right. Could it have been a little bit wider, like closer to the post? Yes. Flecken did get a hand to it, but I thought it was okay. Does this now make Ollie Watkins an amazing option moving forward? It definitely makes him better with the penalty situation potentially confirmed, right? And he's got Southampton at home right in front of him. And we saw Southampton last night get absolutely smashed by Chelsea. Chelsea scored 5 goals last night. And I know Southampton were down to 10 men, right? But they scored 5 goals. And if I bring up, hang on, let me just find the right goalkeeper, Lumley here, they conceded 5.29 expected goals. So if anything, you could say Chelsea slightly underperformed last night. Absolutely mad. Southampton are basically there for the taking. They've conceded a lot of XG this season so far. It's a great fixture. My only worry is, right, Watkins is still 9 million, which I don't think is particularly cheap. And then after that Southampton game, you've got Forest away, City at home, Newcastle away. Now, you could frame it that those defences are not exactly watertight, right? Forest have now conceded 3 goals to City, 3 goals to Newcastle, 3 goals to Arsenal in recent times. City, yes, they got a clean sheet last night, but they conceded a lot of goals recently. And Newcastle away on paper is not an easy fixture, but Liverpool have just gone and scored 3 goals against them last night, right? So Villa will get chances in those games, but still, on paper, they don't feel that great. And he's 9 million. And also, he got brought off fairly early last night. I think that's now the second game out of the last 4, where he's gone off on 64 minutes. So 64 against Liverpool, 64 against Brentford, 83 against Chelsea, 90 against Palace. Now, maybe he just got bought off early because Unai Emery thought, well, the game's won, we got another game soon. And I don't think there's many doubts that he starts the Southampton game, but there is a chance that he goes off early in that match. He could do, he could get like a brace or a hat-trick within 60 minutes and then come off, and obviously you'd be delighted with that. But I just don't know about the next 3 fixtures. I think if you've got a forward and the money to get to Watkins, and the forward you need to sell for whatever reason, you can maybe justify it. Bringing in Ollie Watkins before Southampton at home is never going to be a bad choice. But I just think if you get through game week 15 and he doesn't kind of pop off, it's not going to look so good from game week 16 onwards. As a non-Watkins owner, I'm not particularly worried about him moving forwards. I know that he could do damage this week, absolutely. But after that, I'm not going to be as concerned about not having him. And it's not because I think he's a bad pick. I just think with the way people are structuring their squads right now, especially if they don't have Haaland, he just doesn't fit in. And also, I still really like Isak. I said I would lean towards keeping him for the Liverpool game. He got a goal and an assist in that match. And now he's got Brentford away, Leicester at home, Ipswich away, Villa at home. So if I was betting on who's going to score the most points between Isak and Watkins over the next 4 game weeks, not just for game week 15, I would lean towards Isak still. And he's 0.6 million cheaper. So I like Watkins. If you've got him, happy days. That Southampton at home game is going to be great. But I don't feel like there's a rush to have to bring him in. And I just want to end by going through a few notes from the games we've had so far in Game Week 14. There's still 2 matches left tonight. Anything major that happens in those games, I'll cover in final thoughts tomorrow. I'm also going to be asking for questions on Twitter and Blue Sky later today for anything that I've not covered in this video. Those questions will go into the final thoughts video that will be out on Friday. So don't worry if there's something I've not got to in this one. Nicholas Jackson, interestingly, was rested against Southampton. I think the general narrative had been, don't worry about bringing Jackson in when he's on 4 yellow cards because he'll get his rest when he gets that 5th yellow card. But obviously now he's had a rest and he's still only 1 away from a suspension. I thought when he came off in the 70th minute against Aston Villa, there was a pretty good chance he would start against Southampton. Not a guarantee, but a pretty good chance. So it's interesting that he didn't. And the fact that Maresca was so happy to rotate makes me think that maybe he will do that again over Christmas, possibly. Like the Ipswich away game in game week 19 is 4 days after Fulham at home and then 4 days before Palace away. So if he's going to rotate again, that might be a fixture he does it in. I think we can wait until way closer to the time to be worried about that. It's also interesting, but I saw a few people say this. It's probably against the spirit of the game. But if Maresca wanted to rest him against Southampton, why didn't he just pick up a yellow card against Aston Villa, just kick the ball away or something? I guess you take a risk then that the other players you want to play against Southampton aren't available. They get injured in training. I don't know, right? Maybe they're just nice people and they didn't want to do something like that, which is absolutely fair enough. Either way, he's had his rest. Not ideal for owners, but the fact that he didn't come on for a cameo means whoever you've got on first bench is going to come on instead. And for some of you, that would be Rodgers. Some of you might have Semenyo left to play. Some people might have just a 2-pointer, and that sucks. But at least you know that he's going to start the next game against Spurs away. If he picks up a yellow in that game, he'll miss Brentford at home. But if you're an owner, you can just play it by ear now, right? You keep him until he gets that yellow. Decide if you want to hold him long term. If so, you just bench him for 1 week. Should you be looking to buy Nicholas Jackson? I don't think he's a bad option at all. But I've said this the whole way, and it hasn't necessarily worked out every week. I'd still rather buy Isak. 0.2 million more, definitely on penalties, no issues with yellow cards. You know, as good fixtures, if not slightly better next 3. I can't see any reason to buy Jackson over Isak, personally. I could be wrong about that. Cunha blanked again. That's 2 in a row now. A few people asked me before Game Week 14 for a question that I covered on Game Week Preview, I think. Is it too late to bring Cunha in? I think it might be at this point. If you're an owner, absolutely nothing to panic about. The chances of him keeping up 10 points per game were always quite slim. He's still got good fixtures to come. West Ham away next. They're in a really bad place right now. Ipswich at home in 16, Leicester away in 17. That is an easy hold. Would I buy him now, though? Probably not, because I think after those 3 fixtures, the run gets a little bit worse. And I just think long-term, spending 7.1 million on him, it just feels a bit expensive compared to what you can get for like $1 million less. So if you've got him, easy hold. If you haven't got him, the next 3 fixtures are great. I just think he's almost a guaranteed transfer out later. Not 100% guaranteed, because I think over Christmas, if he's going to continue to start and play 90 minutes, that's still quite nice, even if the fixtures are a bit trickier. But I think long-term, not even long-term, maybe in the medium term, you probably will want to get rid of him again. I've put Isak on my bullet point list, but I've already spoken about him enough. I think he's good to bring in if you need a forward around that price. Fernandes played in a bit of a deeper role last night. Unfortunately, I couldn't watch it because I was out, but you could see from the lineup that's where he was playing alongside Ugarte. It was Garnacho and Mason Mount behind Højlund. Now, I don't know. The problem with Fernandes right now is Amorim is still messing about. He's messing about with the team a bit, right? And that's not really how I want to word it, but I can't think of anything else right now while I'm in this. I can't talk, right? He's messing around with the team a bit, right? He's changing players, he's rotating and stuff like that. So was Fernandes deeper again against Arsenal because long term that's where Amorim wants to play him, or was it just rotation? He played that role in Europe, and then obviously Mainu played the next game and got suspended, and Fernandes was more advanced. So what is the new normal under Amorim? Will he mostly play Fernandes in the front three, or will he try and play him alongside someone like Ugarte? I think it's still up in the air. No one's buying Fernandes right now, so that's easy. If you've got him, I don't see a problem playing him against Forest because he will definitely play. Other players will get rotated. He won't. I think there's a good chance he's back in that front three, and he has done pretty well recently. Right? He's not as good as Saka, Palmer, Salah, obviously, but he's got 6 returns in the last 6. And the only game, like Ipswich away, was the one where it was annoying that he blanked. Arsenal, fair enough, right? You're up against one of the best defences in the league. He's returned against Everton at home. He's returned against Leicester at home. He's returned against Chelsea at home. You've got another home game here against Forest, which is not easy, but Man United can get points in that. So if you're looking at your team, I wouldn't look at Bruno as a major problem to get rid of. Obviously, if you've got a spare transfer to upgrade him, fair enough. But if you don't, or you just want to roll, I think holding him one more week where he'll probably play more advanced is fair enough. If you get to 16 and Fernandes has played deeper again against Forest, then I think we can start to consider him a bit of a problem moving forward. But ultimately, he's going to continue playing 90 minutes most games and be on penalties. He's never going to be a huge problem, I don't think. But yeah, for me, my plan is just to play him this week and then decide what to do with him in game week 16. Salah permanent captain is now the conversation that is coming up after yet another amazing game for him last night. He got, 2 goals, 1 assist. The guy's an absolute joke right now. He's on 151 points after 14 game weeks. He's probably not going to go and get another 151 in the next 14, but he'll probably get close. He is on to beat his 303 point record, which would be incredible. Is he now a permanent captain? I don't think so, but he is someone that is difficult to go against. It just so happens he was probably going to be my captain for at least the next 2 game weeks anyway. Everton away and Fulham at home. I think Palmer is quite competitive with him. Spurs away, Brentford at home, but I think I'd rather go for Salah. Game week 17 is probably interesting because Salah's got Spurs away, and so in 17 you might want to go for where's Saka? Saka's got Palace away and Palmer's got Everton away. So arguably Salah's a little bit behind those two in 17, although Spurs defence is usually pretty generous. So you could just permanently captain Salah, but I think there's still a conversation to be had most weeks. For example, last night, right, Salah puts up 0.7 XG and 0.24 expected assists. Great numbers, by the way, really good. Cole Palmer only scores once, so 2 attacking returns behind. He puts up 1.49 XG, 0.33 expected assists. Now, some people will point out that Southampton were down to 10 men, right? So, of course, Chelsea, they'd already scored 3 goals, by the way, before they were even down to 10. But either way, it definitely helped later on. But that's not really the point I'm trying to make. The point is that Palmer put up better numbers. On another day, Palmer outscores Salah, and then this conversation about permanently captaining Salah just doesn't happen. So I think it's... I would just still take it week by week. All it will take is a Salah blank, and people will forget the permanent captain conversation, by the way. So just take it week by week. But most weeks, he is great. Absolutely. And if you're a Bowen owner and you sold in Burmo to Bowen, you can consider yourself massively unlucky. While I've mentioned Mbeumo, let's just quickly talk about him. Another game with 0 XG. That is now 4 of the last 5. He is not getting shots off whatsoever. His expected assists are not great either. He is becoming a problem. I think like even me, right, who's got a lot of patience with players, even I'm starting to feel like I've got to get rid of him. I probably won't sell him this week because I've got other transfers I want to make, and I'll talk about that tomorrow. Newcastle at home is not terrible. He could even just get a dodgy penalty out of nowhere and get a goal without even playing that well. So I don't consider him someone to like... When I say a major problem, I mean if you've got to take a hit to get rid of him, I just wouldn't do it, right? Basically, that's kind of what I mean by that. If you've got a spare transfer and you want to sell to like a Bowen, Matoma, etc., perfectly fine. I don't think Mbeumo is anywhere near essential right now, but he's still going to play 90 minutes pretty much every week and be on penalties, so he's still not a terrible option moving forward. But if you sold him to Bowen, honestly, I don't know how Bowen didn't return against Leicester. I know Leicester got the win. Lopetegui's in big trouble now, but West Ham were very good in that game. Bowen put up 0.53 expected goals, 1.09 expected assists. That is absolutely ridiculous. He still looks like a good option moving forward. And I think if you've already bought him, next 4 look decent. Wolves at home, they just conceded 4 to Everton. Bournemouth away, Brighton at home, Southampton away. I think you stick to it. I don't see Bowen as like a worry about if you don't own him. Like if you want to do Mbeumo to Bowen, absolutely fine. But I don't think it's like a transfer you absolutely need to make. But I think if you've got him, consider yourself unlucky. It sucks when you have weeks like that. He's going to be great moving forward. I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff I need to cover. I will do that in final thoughts tomorrow. I'm going to ask for your questions later today. I'll also have my team selection tomorrow as well. I don't want to do it later on today because I'd rather wait and see what happens in tonight's matches, especially when I've still got 3 players left to play. So I'm actually doing all right, apart from the fact I benched Rodgers. I bottled it. It's a bottle job, that is. I wanted to go all in. I wanted Man United to win, of course, but I knew Arsenal defence is great, so I wanted to play Rodgers instead of Fernandes. I didn't do it. I went Fernandes because if he scored, I would never have lived it down with triple Arsenal defence. But even with that benching, I'm doing all right. Salah vice-captain, Palmer captain, Saliba 15-pointer, Raya 6, and I've got 3 players left today. Solanke, João Pedro, and Raul Jimenez. So I'm not on a green arrow, but I'm close, and I've got 3 players left to play. That's a pretty good position to be in. If they all start, which hopefully they will. If Solanke doesn't start, by the way, or he's not in the squad, which wouldn't be the worst for me, then I get Rodgers off the bench, 8 points. So currently on 58. Let's see what happens tonight, and I'll talk about my team tomorrow because I'm fairly clear on what I want to do, but that could change. If you've enjoyed that, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button, rate 5 stars if you listen on podcast. Don't forget to play Premier League Pick'em over on Sleeper and join the Let's Talk FPL League using the link in the description below, or scroll back in the video and use the QR code on screen. There's another £100 Amazon gift voucher up for grabs in Gameweek 15. You just have to get the most amount of predictions. I'll leave it there. Enjoy the matches tonight, and I'll catch you tomorrow for final thoughts and team selection.